It was a golden morning, sunlight streaming through the mansion's towering windows, birds chirping outside, and the world feeling alive. Everything seemed perfect except for Arya Volmont's bedroom. While the mansion buzzed with life, her room sat in eerie silence. Little Arya lay pale on the massive white bed, her breath shallow, her skin clammy, and her once bright eyes dim. Her father, Mr. Rowan Volmont, a man of immense wealth and influence, had spent millions on doctors, specialists, and the latest treatments, yet nothing seemed to work. It was as if something invisible was slowly draining her life, and no one could explain why. Grief had changed Rowan. Losing his wife during childbirth had left him fractured. Watching Arya fade day by day reopened wounds he thought had healed. He buried himself in work, convinced money could solve everything. But Arya's health continued to decline. Her room was immaculate, the curtains drawn to soften the sunlight, the faint smell of medicine lingering in the air. She barely smiled, barely spoke, barely existed. Then came Nora Celeste. She wasn't hired for credentials she had none. Rowan chose her because Arya, who rarely reached out to anyone, had instinctively touched her hand the first day she arrived. That single moment was enough. Nora moved into the mansion and dedicated herself to Arya's care. She observed subtle details. Arya's energy seemed to drain in her bedroom, but brightened in the garden. She often woke trembling, as if startled by something unseen. Her breathing changed whenever she lay near the floor. Something was wrong, something beyond the physical. Nora cleaned the room meticulously, changed the bedding, adjusted lighting, removed flowers. Inspected for allergens, yet Arya continued to weaken. One afternoon, as sunlight flickered across the rug, Arya drifted into an uneasy sleep. Her fingers twitched, her brow tightened, her breathing faint. Nora's instinct screamed that something critical was hidden nearby. Cautiously, she knelt and lifted the white bed skirt. There, shrouded in shadow, sat an old wooden chest, dusty, cracked, oddly out of place in the modern mansion. Inside were a faded black and white photograph of a stern woman, a rusted locket, dried herbs tied with fraying string, an old rosary, and parchment covered in strange symbols. Nora's throat tightened. The air round the chest felt heavy, almost pressurized, as if something had been waiting there for years. Fear gripped her, but she forced herself to stay calm. Arya's life might depend on this moment. Rowan entered the room and froze. His expression twisted in shock when he recognized the photograph. It was his mother-in-law, the woman who had despised him and swore his wife's life would be cursed. She had died before Arya was born, yet here was her presence, hidden beneath the bed. Rowan explained with trembling voice. After his wife died, her mother had tried to protect the baby with old rituals. He had ordered everything removed, believing in science, not superstition. Somehow, though, the chest had returned, but now the object seemed darker, almost malevolent. Nora carefully removed each item. The moment the chest was exposed, Arya stirred. Her breathing steadied. Color returned to her cheeks, and a fragile smile formed. It was immediate, as if the room itself had exhaled. That night, Arya slept peacefully in the guest room beside Nora, without trembling, without shallow breaths. Days passed. Arya, once pale as winter, began to bloom. She walked in the garden, painted bright colors, and laughed softly as Nora braided her hair. Rowan watched, emotionally overwhelmed, realizing how much he had failed. Money couldn't heal Arya. What she needed was attention, care, and someone who noticed the invisible threads of her life. One afternoon, Rowan found Nora reading to Arya by the sunlit window. Arya leaned against her, calm and content. Rowan felt something inside him unclench, a burden he hadn't realized he carried. He thanked Nora, not with grand gestures, but with genuine gratitude and a promise to be the father Arya deserved. The chest was taken far from the mansion and sealed away. Its origin and purpose remained a mystery. Whoever had returned it had acted without explanation. But that no longer mattered. Arya was alive. She was healing. In the mansion, laughter replaced silence, warmth replaced sorrow, and care replaced neglect. Hope had returned because someone decided to pay attention when the world had looked away. Sometimes, healing begins the moment someone chooses to care. And that simple act of noticing the small, invisible details can change everything.